Yo, what is going on, you guys? Anthony here with Pistons Talk. No Lance today. Just had a kid, and he's really exhausted. So had to bring on a special guest, Kory Woods. So you're a beat reporter for Mlive for the Pistons and the Lions now. So congrats to that, man. That's
Yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah, thanks a lot. When I first started, they were trying to figure out how to go ahead and put me into that hybrid role, but they tried me out with a few different areas, but ultimately it was going to be the Pistons beat, and then chipping in behind Kyle Mikey and Ben Raven for the Lions, and two phenomenal writers. So glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, man. Like I read all of your Piston stuff, obviously, because I'm a sicko.
Yeah,
I read every Pistons beat reporter. Just if there's like a little nugget in there, like I want to talk about it, obviously, on this
yeah.
podcast. But this is one topic where I think you're gonna have fun with. I saw it from Fubu Sports, and it has to do with RJ Hampton.
Okay.
So RJ Hampton apparently has burners.
Yeah, I read about that.
So I wanted to get like kind of your take on it. Like, what's your take on RJ Hampton admitting that he actually has a burner in the first place?
You know what? RJ Hampton admitting that he had a burn in the first place is kind of funny. I wouldn't have done it, but I actually respect the fact that he did it because at least he's not trying to hide behind it. We know these athletes have burners. I mean, we all know about the infamous Kevin Durant slip up, but these guys are out there. Some of the stuff that they say, they just talk a little bit too much. Like, wait a minute, is that RJ Hampton? Is that Jalen Duren? Some of these guys talk a little bit too much, but I don't have a problem with it. It's the new era, new social media. Still, I guess you could say within sports, it's still in its infancy. Because if you really want to be honest about it, this whole Twitter, Instagram. I mean, Instagram's like only really 10 years old.
Yeah.
So this is all still kind of new, but I don't really have a problem with it. It's more funny than anything. I like it because when they get caught up, it's real good content for somebody like me and you.
Yeah, I mean, probably like I remember making a post on this, and like Pistons fans, they're funny. They're like KD
Yeah.
Hampton, like it's just
Oh
I
yeah.
yeah, like when I saw that he like actually admitted like I have a burner. I'm like, okay, you got my respect, but I'm like, who's actually talking crap about you? Is it Magic fans? Is it Nuggets fans? Because like Pistons fans, they think he's better than Killian Hayes. Like you talk to them, like, oh yeah, he's better than Killian. I was like, calm down there a little bit. Like he's a good player, but I mean, when I saw this, I just started laughing.
Yeah, I would probably say it would have to be probably Magic fans, if anybody, that's talking trash about him. Because to your point, Pistons fans have been really welcoming for him. The first couple of games, he did look a little shaky. Guess he's just trying to just get used to what was going on. But over the past couple of games, he's shown that he at least belongs in the league. And I don't think that the Pistons fan base will be the ones doing that.
Yeah, I mean, like Magic are kicking our ass right now. Like,
Yeah,
I,
as we talk about that dynamic, I'm seeing what's going on because obviously I'm covering remote.
yeah, I mean, to be honest, I don't think I've probably watched a Pistons game in a week. That's just kind of where I'm at, like mentally. I've kind of like checked out. Not to say
Mhm.
that I'm not still a fan. It's just I can't watch bad basketball. It's just it's really hard to watch.
Well, they've it's not a good product. I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat it. The product
Yeah,
is bad, but I think that a lot of things is that Dwayne Casey's been kind of dealing behind the eight ball with this roster ever since he took the job. So, I mean, in his case, the one thing I would hope for him, and again, I have no vetted interest either way, but just for him, I would hope that they're at least able to finish the season with that 17th win, because you do not want to be tied for the worst record in franchise history. Um, he just doesn't want that, because it's going to be, whether it's warranted or not, it would be a lot of smoke coming from the fan
yeah.
base.
You don't want that stain on your record either. I
Yeah,
mean, I was looking again, like there's no content out there, like we were talking about before we went live. How long Casey's been here? I mean, he has the second most games coached under the Detroit Pistons, right behind Chuck Daly, around 700.
wow.
So I'm like, man, he's been here longer than Van Gundy, and Van Gundy was winning with less talent,
Yeah,
and 30 wins every year. This is just like I said, it's not a good product, like you said, but I don't really blame the product solely on him. I know injuries have to do with it. You know, trading for project players, and that's kind of like the next topic I wanted to get into. I don't know if you have seen a bunch of these Pistons fans, Jalen Duren, James Wiseman. Why do you think James Wiseman isn't starting right now over James? Or why don't you think Jalen Duren isn't starting over James Wiseman? I should say.
Okay, this want to preface my comments by saying I have not heard anything. This is just me hypothesizing. I believe the Pistons know that Jalen Duren is going to be their center for the future. I think, before he went down, he had about 27 out of 28 games he started. I think over that stretch they saw that, okay, this is the guy that we're going to go around moving forward. With this season going nowhere, I'm not saying that they're tanking, but you already go ahead and you make the acquisition for Wiseman. Let's see what we can get from him. Let's put him on display and highlight him and see what he's about, because you got one or two things coming. If the Pistons don't land a number one pick and get Wemby, as most people are talking about, you got that insurance right now with Wiseman. Or if you do get the pick, maybe you already showcased enough for Wiseman to flip him for a future trade down the line. So right now, and also too, with Duren having the ankle injuries and the way the season is going, you know what? We're going to still play him and feature him in significant minutes, but let's hold off. He's the youngest player in the league. He's 19. We don't got to go full sit with him right now, knowing he's the future. Let's showcase Wiseman and see whether he's somebody we need to invest in our plans long term, or showcase him and build up a trade value.
Yeah, I'm just going off of what I've seen and interacting with fans, not so much like, player personnel or coaches like that. Obviously, coaches know that Jalen Duren's the future center of this team.
Yeah.
Like you said, 19. James Wiseman just had a birthday. He's 22.
Yeah.
And if you look, Jalen Duren's played almost as much games as James Wiseman has played.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Wiseman got drafted in 2020. I think it's just kind of a discourse among fans. Like, they don't really understand the thought process of starting Wiseman over Duren and what kind of message that does send to him. Like, hey, we traded for a center and we're going to start him over you. I don't really think it's a thing where the Pistons don't understand like who Jalen Duren is, because I think defensively there's a lot of potential there. I think offensively a lot of potential there. I mean, guy, develops a face-up game. I mean, to me, I see a lot of Bam Adebayo in his game. Like, I think,
and he's so raw.
Mm-hmm.
He's so raw, and I think once next year, when the team is fully healthy and you have a healthy Cade Cunningham out there, you're going to see his game take another level. And to the point where you're talking about amongst the fan base, I'm not saying about the fan base, but I was of the mindset of, I wonder how does Duren taking to this. I asked Coach Casey. He said that Duren is taking to it well. His mentality is about team first. He's still a sponge. He keeps on asking questions about how to improve in his role. And then I asked Duren himself. Actually, the article is on Mlive right now. It's live. And Duren himself said, hey, right now I'm cool coming off the bench because I'm learning a lot. And for me, it doesn't matter where I'm at. I just want to play. And he said when he gets in the game, he's going to make it do what it does. He doesn't matter whether he's starting or coming off the bench right now. He's all about doing the best to help his team win. And that's the mentality that you want to have. I mean, obviously the fans are going to be concerned, because that's how fans are. But if Duren, he seems to be, from all the times I've talked to him this season, he seems to be a straight shooter. So I'm going to go ahead and take him at face value of where, hey, I'm cool right now.
Yeah, I think what I like about him most is, like you said, his professionalism and just his approach. Because he could be saying like, hey, you just drafted me in the lottery. You traded for me, right? And then you're trading for another center. Like, he could feel some type of way, and he's not. And I think that has to do with, where he went to college, learning under Penny Hardaway and Larry Brown and Rasheed Wallace, a lot of former Pistons on that coaching staff. Rasheed, not so much anymore, but I mean, like I said, I see some Rasheed Wallace in his game too, like his face-up game. Like, I see a lot of similarities.
They've been practicing on a lot of the stuff that you're talking about to draw those Rasheed comparisons out. They practice on a lot of that stuff, so don't be surprised if you start to see him creep a little bit further away from the basket starting next year.
Yeah, I mean, I saw the potential in college, so I'm not really too worried about it. I just know how the Detroit Pistons fans are. Like I said, they think that we're going to trade Duren, we're going to get rid of him. They think that Wiseman's Weaver's guy. There's reports that the Pistons had like a top 2 pick, he would draft Wiseman over LaMelo and stuff like that. So I'm not really surprised that we traded for Wiseman. I'm not surprised that he's starting. Obviously, you want to evaluate his talent and see where he's at. And like you said, I didn't even think about that. Maybe you can flip him on draft night. You never know.
Oh yeah, because right now you're showcasing like, okay, this guy was not a problem with the Warriors. The problem was, as even Draymond Green said, he couldn't get reps. They were a championship team going. They're right now in championship mode. They don't have the time to get a guy out there and develop him. And right now, you're having him on you're having him on the losing his team, and he's showcasing like, hey, I can ball. So right, they're in a really good position. Even though the basketball looks really dark, just off of a whether you want to what you want to do with them in the future or whether you want to flip them. I think they're in a really good position with Wiseman right now. It's a smart trade. You flipped one of the worst defenders at the wing position in the league for a guy with a lot of upside who's living up to it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not paying Sadiq Bey close to $90 million.
Absolutely.
Yeah, when I saw he wanted DeAndre Hunter money, I was like, hey, yeah, bye, Bay. Like, get out of here. Like, I'm
I,
good.
I'm gonna leave that one alone. I say if you can get them to pay it for you, hey, more power to you.
I'm sure Charlotte will look very nice for Sadiq Bey because
Yeah.
that's a team that will probably pay for Bey.
Yeah.
Did want to talk about another rookie on this team. What have been your impressions with Ivy this season? Has he kind of like lived up to your expectations?
Absolutely. Granted, Ivy does have some games for me where I think that he's sometimes he can do a little bit too much. I think he's trying to overcompensate to try to, be in that real leadership role because I mean, let's just be real. They do not have a dynamic scorer right now, a dynamic playmaker up besides him that one you would really want the ball in his hands all the time. So I think right now he has some games where he tried to do a little bit too much, but overall, I believe that he's lived up to the expectations. You see that first off, he has a lot of dog in him.
Oh yeah.
He's great going on the drive. Like that first step, going to the rack, you really don't want that smoke with him. I think he's start over the season started to progress. You start to see him take better shots. And I honestly like him running the offense. I want to say like it. The Pistons look better
Yeah.
sometimes when he runs the offense as opposed to Killian. But overall, I think he lived up to expectations, and they should be really good with him and Cade next year. I'm curious to see how that dynamic works because obviously, as Dwayne Casey said, when Cade comes back, Ivy's going to be playing a lot more off ball. So one area they're going to have to probably work on him a lot is that outside shooting.
Yeah, I remember when we drafted him, I was telling fans he's a point guard. He's not a shooting guard. Like, and I still get a lot of flack for it. They're like, oh, even Ivy said he's a shooting guard. I think he's way more effective with the ball in his hands. He's way more effective at being a lead guard than playing off the ball. Because when he does play off the ball, he's just standing in the corner. He's not really a movement shooter in Dwayne Casey's offense, and maybe Casey's just giving them maybe 10 plays to run because that's how he trusts them with. But like I said, I don't know what Casey's offense is, but I think to your point, I think from October to like April, the development has been incredible.
Absolutely. And the one thing you made a really good point. The one thing that will be interesting is how does that relationship with Cade and Duren form next year? Because we know Ivy's going to be playing off ball, but the chemistry that Ivy and Duren have formed as a tandem of first it was just Ivy getting him the ball. Now you're starting to see Duren get a little bit better with the passing game. So now they're kind of feeding off each other. So I'm curious to see how that dynamic is gonna take form next year because it seemed like it's something real tangible there that you could kind of work with moving forward. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that duo, that 1-5 duo with Duren and Ivy, you definitely see it developing. I know Ivy kind of teased Duren for his passing. I know I was
Yeah.
listening to a presser saying like, some of the passes we actually said, dude, what the hell was that? Like, it wasn't even close to me. But the fact that they kind of had that just making fun of each other for like goofing off in practice,
Yeah.
I think that's the type of chemistry that a lot of Pistons fans like to see. And we'll see, man. I don't know why I have a feeling where Cade might play the 3 next year. and Ivey's the point guard, because I think even though Cade's a good passer, I'd much rather have a more athletic guard be our point guard than kind of like a slow, methodical guard. Nothing against Cade. I just think Ivey could, push the pace, and the transition game would be a lot more effective. But that's just my opinion.
I mean, if they were to do that, I mean, Cade has definitely put on the muscle to take that type of, punishment. He will take at that position. So, and compete at that level. So I'm not, like I said, I have not heard anything about that, but I think we've all seen the pictures of how much bulkier he looks. So he's ready for next year wherever he gets moved to.
Yeah, I haven't really heard anything. That's just an opinion I have, honestly.
Yeah.
Like you said, he's bulked up. I kind of doubt he's a vegan anymore, just from how big he is. Like, 'cause, man, there's no way you're eating veggie burgers getting that big. I'm sorry, man. You got to be having a steak once in a while.
Yeah, that's that. I don't know if the plant protein works like that, but who knows? But yeah, 6'6". I mean, what did they have Cade at before for his weight? I believe he was like around 220. He looks like he's about a good 235, 240 maybe.
Yeah, man. Like, I mean, he's big enough. Like you said, he's bulked up to play against the Jason Tatums. And he's not strong enough to play against Giannis, because Giannis is just a freak.
Oh no.
I mean, like the Kawhi Leonards, the Chris Middletons.
Yeah.
I think he could play against those type of forwards if he did switch to the forward. But like I said, I just see Ivey as kind of like that Westbrook type, where he can just kind of run the offense and just get everyone involved.
I mean, he's just such a dynamic playmaker, and his court vision is just, it's really, to me, as far as some of the rookies out here, I would say second to none. And that's not even being biased. When he's locked in, I've just seen plays from him that was just like, whoa, what made you even think you can make that pass? But if he threaded it.
Yeah, I mean, he just throws fastballs out there, and you're like, where the hell did that come from?
Right.
Like, his ability to, I know, like, a lot of media, I know I'm getting off topic, like, they always kind of told Westbrook, like, hey, if you slow down, you'd be so dangerous. I think Ivey is kind of, I don't want to say he's mastered it, but I've kind of seen him where he's running really fast, but he knows when to kind of control the pace and, burst to the basket, or I'm just going to run because I'm faster than everybody. I think I've seen that with him so far, and I think that's why I think if he's playing point guard, it's way more efficient than playing kind of off ball, because, I mean, he's not going to be running off screens like Rip Hamilton or Reggie Miller. Like, we know that.
The way the KC has worked with him, he plays with a controlled speed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he knows he can blow past you, but he doesn't always just lean on his athleticism. So he's playing, as like you just said, as the season has progressed, he's began to play a lot smarter.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be a 20-point per game scorer. That's just what I think of him. This is a player. This, because I've seen like him from like I said, October to now, a completely different player. The fact that he's hitting a 3-point shot at a high rate and getting to the basket, kind of foul baiting, and I'm sure Alec Burks had a lot to do with that, because he's kind of picking up like how Alec Burks gets to the line. And man, I'm getting excited talking about him. Honestly. Did want to talk to you guys about one of the newer Pistons. I'm sure you saw this. What were your thoughts on Eugene celebrating with the Thunder after the Pistons lost?
I'm. This is a really interesting one, because on one hand, I get it. I mean, that's where he came from. OKC, saw a lot of his buddies, yada yada yada. I would get that, but when you in that moment and how the things transpire with you messing up a little bit, and then afterwards you're going and you're taking a picture right after you lose another game, and you're just all smiles as if nothing happened. It almost looked like, man, I wish I was still here. It just gave off a wild look, but again, the NBA competition is a little bit different, so I'm not going to just beat him over the head about it. The mentality is different, the game is different, but it did look odd. It did look odd.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's the old head in me, but I absolutely hated it.
And I get it. I get it.
Yeah, I'm like, I was thinking because I was talking with some friends. I was like, can you imagine if Dennis Rodman was on the Bulls and they lost in a buzzer beater and he's taking pictures with Isaiah Thomas and Joe Dumars all smiling? Like what Michael Jordan would think of that or stuff like that. Like I know it's hard to compare like, a Dennis Rodman
Yeah.
to a guy that's been in and out of the G League in 10 days and stuff like that. But I just kind of hated the mentality and kind of like the culture, kind of like what it,
I
to
would
me,
say this much.
yeah.
I think if they had did like, they took a picture of a jersey swap, hey, I'm with my old guys, or he took a picture with maybe one or two of them at different times, I think that might have blown over. But the whole look like a team photo type thing, I think that's where it's just like, okay, that was the first time I saw that. Like I've seen guys take pictures on the court with their old teammates, one or two here and there, but this was like a team photo. So that was what was the difference.
Yeah, like I don't mind like if you're dapping up before the game or you get in the jersey swap, but man, he was the only Piston there, all smiling. And the fact that you get posted by NBA memes, people are clowning you for that.
Yeah.
Like I just didn't like it, kind of like the message you're kind of sending to like, your teammates with the Pistons now saying like, hey, I'm here, but I'm still cool with my OKC guys. Like I think that's kind of
And
the message I thought of too. It's just like, yeah, I get you got a new contract, but like at the same time, we're your team now. You gotta have to have that mindset. Like you can still be boys. I don't care about that, but just like you said, the picture. I've never seen anything like that before either.
yeah, not the team photo. Yeah, just individuals I've seen it, but not like, hey, I'm still with OKC, but I'm in a Pistons jersey.
Yeah.
It was an odd look.
Yeah, I mean, Pistons fans are like, he's a double agent, like straight up. Like, he's just he's making sure that we lost the game for his poor play in that game. Just trying to secure that tank.
Oh Lord. What a fan base.
I'm telling you, man, some of the messages I get, bro, like your head would spin. Like some of the conspiracy theories that these Pistons fans come up with, like it's
Oh,
entertaining to say the least.
I'm pretty sure I've seen a couple of them floating. I'm gonna leave them alone though.
Yeah. Speaking of the draft, I know me and you were texting this week, so I wanted to kind of get your thought process on that. Man, I cannot talk today. Thought process on this. Which draft prospects makes the most sense for the Detroit Pistons, in your opinion?
It really depends on. Okay, there are so many factors on this, so I'm gonna try to just take one lane and stick with it and not quibble. If you're talking about the number one overall pick, I believe they have to draft Wembanyama. I mean, it's just
Mm-hmm.
you just whether you don't want to pass up on a generational talent and just to try to be the smartest person in the room, and this guy turns out to be dynamic and you got
Yeah.
to deal with it for the next 10, 15, how many ever years. They've done that already by trying to be the smartest person in the room by taking Darko over Carmelo. Don't do it again. Only way I would say if they had the number one pick, they don't get Wimby is if they were able to get some type of the Hall of Halls. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't even know what that would look like. But if they were to get the number one pick, I believe that's what it would take for them to not get him. Let's say if they got number two, I mean, me and you were talking about it. I think B Miller is just the obvious choice right now. When you're looking at this Pistons team, you're going to have Duren or Wiseman at center. If they got number two, you would still have Bogey. You would still have Cade. You would still have Ivy. I'm kind of curious about where they're going to go with that fourth spot, but I'm gonna save that for another day. But just to be Miller, best small forward in the draft. I'm gonna start with the cons. Shot selection, it's good, not great. Could could be a tad bit better, just a tad bit. Defense it can be some improvements on the 1-on-1. For me, those are the cons. Everything else is there. He can mid range, finishes nasty at the rim. He has a clip from outside. He's a good help side defender. This is who the Pistons would need when it's time to part ways from Bogdanovich. This man, Bogdanovich, is going to be 34 this month. There's going to come a time where you're going to have to part ways from him. And then, boom, you already have your wing that you need right there. So you could probably feature a starting five if they were to keep Bagley. You could feature a starting five of Duren, Bagley, Miller, Ivy, and Cade. That I'm not going to say is the championship, roster, but that is a definite playoff roster in the making.
Yeah, I know. Me and Lance have kind of debated over Scoot Henderson and Brandon Miller, and obviously, like you said, pros and cons. Um, if we're just going like fit, I think fit he makes the most sense. I know he had a groin injury during March Madness, and I think some people maybe they didn't know that because he had a really bad shooting performance during March Madness.
Yeah,
And you could kind of tell he wasn't the same player.
yeah,
But I think if you're talking best available, there's definitely a conversation with Scoot Henderson. And I know, like I said, me and you were talking, and you're not that impressed with Scoot Henderson. I can kind of understand why. He's in a similar, I would say, category as Jaden Ivey, but he's way more explosive.
yeah.
Where he's not the best 3-point shooter, but it has developed. It has gone up, I think, 10% since last year. I like Scoot as a prospect. I do, but I just have a really hard time drafting 3-point guards.
And that's where I'm at with it too about Scoot Henderson. It's like if you didn't have Jaden Ivey, Scoot Henderson would be a no brainer. I mean, we seen his tape, but for what the Pistons are building, you would unless I don't know what moves they would make as far as their backcourt outside of Ivy, but you would have a collection of guards that can not really shoot that well from long distance. So right now the Pistons need to be solving a problem, not adding to it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that drafting Scoot Henderson would solve a problem. And again, my reservations about him are not to say that he's not a top three, top five pick. Oh yes, he's a top three, top five pick. I just don't think that he's a pick that the Pistons should make because it just makes no sense for the fit of this team moving forward. And I think that he's going to have some high upside, but the work they're putting in with Ivy and what we've seen from him, he's going to have high upside too.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of argued that I think Jaden Ivey is on par with Scoot Henderson in terms of just the players they are, and I think when it's all said and done, their stats, if you kind of just match them up, they're going to be very similar.
Yeah,
I think
I agree with
Ivy to
that.
me, him for developing his shot this year. I mean, I think he was shooting like close to 35% from like I think the month of January to like mid-February. I mean, that was something that fans said he's not a 3-point shooter, and he was shooting better than Benedict Mathurin. But getting back to Scoot, the only way I could see it working is if you move him at point guard, Ivy at shooting guard, and Cade at small forward. That's the only way it works on paper. But to your point, they're not going to want to develop another lead guard like that because they just invested a whole season with Ivy. The Killian Hayes thing, I think I've kind of been out on it. And I think this is the most he's developed in probably his 3 years. I'm just kind of to the point where I'm like, you should have been making these, strides year one. Like
Yeah,
it's taken you
yeah.
3 years to be at, an above average NBA player, right? But that's just where I'm at with like the whole point guard thing. I think to your point, I would look at Brandon Miller, I would look at Cam Whitmore, I would look at Jerace Walker. I mean, those are the guys that I'm just looking at. I'm good on the Thompson twins because I think they're just again, you got to develop them because they're really raw offensively. I mean, a Sore Thompson's a little bit better than a Mean, but I mean, just by a hair. But that's just like my take on it.
Right now, what the Pistons need is a guy that can come in and get them a bucket. That's what they need. I mean, we know Jaden Ivey can score. We know Cade Cunningham has the ability to score. We know Bogey has the ability to score. He's not going to be here long term. I think we can disagree on that. At some point he could be here long term, but at some point he's 34. They're going to have to look towards the future. Miller can get them a bucket. Whitmore can get them a bucket. That is what they need. They need somebody who can come in and be a day one, who can be a day one starter if they need him to be, or sit back, a couple of weeks, months, a year, and then he become a day one starter or day two starter.
Yeah, I think Miller to me makes the most sense. Just like you said, he could fit next to Cade. He could play on the wing. Because I see so much Paul George in his game. It's so similar. I know I told you I see a lot of Danny Granger and Paul George, and they're both guys that got drafted
Yeah.
by Indiana.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, man, if you had that type of small forward, I mean, you're probably not a 16-win team. Maybe you're a 30-win team, and depending on what you do in free agency, I mean, because I think right now you have around 28 million to spend with. Like,
Yeah.
depends on like what you do with these rookie extensions or who you attack in free agency. But I think for me, he makes the most sense. He just makes too much sense, and that's where I'm kind of scared because like we all knew Donovan Mitchell was the guy. But what did they do? They draft Luke Kennard. I don't want them, just having that type of thought process where he makes so much sense, even the casual fan can see it, and they draft a guy that's a project, and they're hoping he can become a two-way guy when the two-way guy is right there.
Well, like I said, I haven't talked to nobody about this, but it would be a hard sell because you've already taken a project before, recently with Hayes, and it's produced. Hey, it hasn't produced the results that fans would want. So you would be hearing some type of revolt if you went ahead and tried to develop another project with that pick instead of just going ahead and drafting the best fit, which would be Miller, and a guy who could come in and get you what you need, a bucket from anywhere on the floor.
Yeah, it's just the Pistons are just gonna piston. Like I know, like I joke when like same old Lions, same old Pistons because like it just seems like every draft there's a guy that's right there in their grasp. You mentioned Killian. I think it's Tyrese Halliburton right away. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton to me is on the cusp of being a top 10 point guard.
And again, it's interesting. Talk to Tyrese Halliburton after the game when they were here. He thought he was coming here, and he said they went a different direction. But he it's crazy. Just to be real, I asked him the question because you had posted it, and I'm like, posted that interview, and I'm like, let me just ask him to see what he thinks about this because he was getting so much traction on your Instagram, and he just kind of had a chuckle about it, like, yeah, I thought I was coming here, but they had other plans, and he said it worked out for everybody. I disagree with that part because I think it worked out for Halliburton, but
Yeah.
With the Pistons record the way it is, maybe not so. But who knows? Maybe if you draft Halliburton, you don't have yourself in position to get a Cade Cunningham or Jaden Ivey or Duren. It's all hindsight is always 2020.
Oh, for sure. I mean, maybe you don't have a Cade Cunningham, but you have an Evan Mobley. You have a 1-5 combo right there. But like I said, I was a big Halliburton guy coming out of the draft. Like Halliburton and Cole Anthony were the point guards that I liked. But I'm not really surprised that the Pistons drafted another European guy. I'm just not. This kind of seems like their track record. Like you said, you mentioned Darko. I had a feeling you were going to mention Darko or some kind of Carmelo Anthony. I just had a feeling.
It's just one of those things that, granted, I think history played out the way it played out. The Pistons won the title, so you can't erase that. But having said that, do you want to go through that again, where a generational player is right there, and then you go in another direction? Darko was a project. Carmelo Anthony just coming straight out from winning the national title. Darko was out the league quickly. Carmelo is like ninth on the all-time scoring list.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's you don't want to try to make that fumble twice. I mean, they've already made it another area, like you just said. You just brought up Donovan Mitchell with Luke Kennard. I mean, there's another one we could talk about. We could talk about Stanley Johnson and Devin Booker.
God.
I mean,
oh man,
you don't want to. I mean, you don't want to keep having. Granted, all teams draft. Oh man, I'm sure have drafted that guy, but I mean, you could really make a all-star lineup with some guys that the Pistons swung out on. So I don't think there's one project this time.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any like I would say the Thompson brothers are projects, but there's definitely upside. But
Yeah.
to your point, this is definitely a pro Brandon Miller podcast. I've been high on him for like, it seems like, I don't know, 3 or 4 months. I just started watching, the tape on him. I'm like, this makes too much sense. Watch them screw it up.
And like you said, that sometimes can be the scary part when it makes too much sense. But again, they didn't psych themselves out with Ivy. I mean, they didn't try to be the smartest person. He was there. They got him.
Yeah, I'm just, like I said, if Keegan Murray and Ivy were there, I think they probably draft Keegan Murray. That's always been my opinion. I think that obviously, that Sadiq Bey, I think, I know I had mentioned it on a podcast previously, like they probably could have traded Sadiq Bey to Sacramento. I mean, like if they wanted to get, maybe you could have 4 and 5. You could have Keegan Murray and Jaden Ivey on the same team.
Wow, that would have been something.
Yeah, that's just something that I've talked about, but
I think they were still kind of too much in love with Bay's upside or what they thought was there to make that trade. But as you see, they've now gone in a different direction.
For sure. I do appreciate you coming on, man. I really do. Did not expect my podcast partner. He's just like, yeah, man, got like 2 hours of sleep. He's just like, can't make it. But
hey, look, I'm telling you right now, when you said he had a newborn, I'm like, oh, I get it, because I'm a month in, I'm 5 weeks in, and it's real. Like when you told me, I'm like, you know what? I've been waiting for him to ask me to join on. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. But boy, am I beat.
No, I appreciate that, man. Congrats. It seems
thanks,
like
I appreciate it.
You're like, I'm not even kidding, man. Like the 10th person that like just like I'm scrolling on my timeline. I was like, oh, he had a kid. Oh, he had a kid. What the hell's going on?
It was definitely something in the water.
Oh, it's just like, damn, man. Like everybody, like I said, I do appreciate you coming on. And if there's anything that you do want to plug for, anyone watching, any kind of articles you're working on or where people can follow you, go for it.
All right, thanks. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, Korye Woods. Right now, a couple things I'm working on. I'm going to be dropping the mailbag article tomorrow. Lots of interesting questions in that one. And I'm going to, I'll just leave it at that. I'm going to talk about the Pistons GT Gaming League. The gaming league, they just won the Slam Open of the G League tournament. Not the G League tournament, gaming tournament. It's such a tongue twister.
Yeah.
And then I got something coming up with Marvin Bagley and Joey Chestnut. So just stay on tune for that one.
Oh, okay. I think I saw something about Marvin Bagley. He put that on his IG stories about that. So that'll be definitely an interesting read. But if you guys do want to follow Kory, all of his social media is down below in the description. I have it all linked so they don't have to look for it. They can just click and it'll go straight to your page. But do appreciate you coming on. I know Lance said that he's pissed off that I got you on this show when he's out, because he definitely does want to talk to you. So we're going to have you on again. Maybe we'll have you on, see where we're picking, and we can kind of talk more draft stuff then. But appreciate
it. Oh, man. Anytime you want to have me on, just shoot me the line. I'll make it happen.
Man, I appreciate that so much, man. Like I said, we worked together for like 2 years, and then
I
couldn't talk to you because obviously I get it.
Yeah, we know.
That's all.
We know.
I never know who's watching me. That's all I'll say, because I got stalkers everywhere. But been a little bit shorter, Pistons podcast, but we will be back next Sunday, you guys. Appreciate you guys watching us, and have a good weekend.